Hello there.
Oh,
How are you, Brian?
good. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you for joining me today.
Good.
I want to just get the ball rolling this morning. The topic is how does grooming start online? And with me, I have Mr. Brian Baltazar for Better Nevada. If you want to just tell the audience a little bit about what you do, and we'll get the conversation started.
Absolutely. So primarily I work in victim advocacy. I've worked for and worked with lots of organizations down here in Southern Nevada, Safe House, Signs of Hope, up in Reno's Crisis Support Services of Nevada. So definitely been doing victim advocacy work for a while now.
And we love that, and we appreciate the work that you're doing and the direct services that you provide. So thank you for that. So let's start off by grounding the conversation. When we talk about online grooming today, what does it actually look like across the platforms that young people are using, like gaming, social media, messaging apps? What does that look like?
So I guess first and foremost, the most important thing that I want to highlight is that grooming is not like a one-time thing. It's a process in which, a predator or a perpetrator is investing time and effort in connecting with a targeted youth. And so when it comes to online, it's having those initial conversations, flattering them, if they have content on their social media, maybe making, some compliments about whatever content that they have. If they are posting pictures about themselves, maybe it's, you look really pretty, just making compliments. If it's gaming, maybe telling them, look, you're really good at this game, just really winning them over by I think that is the main way that they initially start those conversations.
You kind of covered what my next question was. It was going to be about the tactics that they use and compliments and things that will make you feel like, oh, somebody really likes me, so that you would start to trust them a little bit more. But that leads into something probably every adult watching is probably wondering. In addition to those compliments, what are the early red flags that parents, caregivers, advocates should be watching for when monitoring a child's activity online?
Well, if they are already engaging with someone, you want to probably take note of, how much time that they're spending online. Let's say if they are conversing with this person all night, because that's when they feel that they can keep it more secret. Maybe they're going to be, a change in their behavior is going to be they're more tired. Maybe they suffer academically because they're staying up all night conversing with this person, unbeknownst to everybody. So seeing a change in behavior. You really want to watch out for whether they start to isolate from, their normal people. Maybe this person is coercing them, exerting pressure and control over them to not talk to anybody else because ultimately they are trying to establish trust and foster a space where there is trust, where they feel like they can't get it anywhere else. They want them to feel like they can only get that support, that emotions in the shared space. So definitely watching out for that, watching their behavior changes, change in, who they hang out with. Those are some of the primary things. Ultimately, you also want to watch for how much time and access they have to being online. I think that is one of the most important things is that, you know, this day and age, you have so many devices that can connect online. In fact, there was a meme going out on Twitter where, someone had their phone taken.
Oh, I
Um,
lost you, Brian.
oh,
Okay, you're back.
okay. I was just saying, like now. is you can connect online with just about any device. And so there was a meme on Twitter going around how some girl had her phone taken away and she connected online to Twitter through her refrigerator. And then
What?
I laughed, but the reality is that a person can get connected. So you want to be able to establish those boundaries and seeing what internet access looks like and how much they divulge.
So when you just spoke to like adults and caregivers and advocates in the lives of youth, what, from a youth perspective, how would they recognize that a conversation has moved past, or starts to cross the line into grooming? Because compliments, that might not necessarily wave a red flag for some young people, but what should they be looking out for to know this might be turning into something else?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to, as a youth, if secrets are starting to be shared, maybe they come to you and say, I feel like you're the only person that I can trust with this, because they're again trying to foster that relationship of trust. And in turn, the youth is going to feel like they can also divulge private information about themselves. And again, that is in the aim of getting information about them in order to later on weaponize against them and exert control over them. Sending photos, if they are asking you to send photos of yourself, especially explicit photos, that is
Right.
um, because first of all, a minor should not be sharing that kind of content. But if someone is asking for that type of content from you, that again can also be weaponized later on. We hear stories in the news, and we see in movies and shows about how youth do share, this type of explicit content with an individual, and then later on it's used to coerce them into making them feel entrapped that they
Hmm.
this relationship even by the time that they actually want to. Like the threat of releasing this kind of imagery out to either their known people or just the general public is a big motivator to keep them entrapped. And so that, as well as any personal private information, like where you live, things like that, I still believe in stranger danger. If I don't trust a person, I don't know anything about them, I'm not going to tell them where I live. I'm not going to, any important details about my life. So if they're trying to extrapolate that kind of information from you, that's a huge red flag, especially someone that you do not know online whatsoever. That like, you've never met this person? Absolutely not. Like you ought to feel comfortable, and we need to empower youth to feel comfortable enough to say, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not sending that.
That's great. I just created a post saying that, like, your voice matters. It's okay to say that I'm not okay doing that. There's a lot of instances in the news where teens have been um, tricked into sending compromising photos and videos, and in doing such, a lot of teens have taken their lives because of the embarrassment behind that kind of thing. So awareness is key. And with that, what are some simple everyday conversations that adults can have with young people to build that awareness?
Yeah. So I think any conversation needs to come from a place of that's free of judgment, free of judgment. I myself being raised, like I did not necessarily have that. So I kept a lot to myself. So I important it is to have an environment where you feel like you're not going to get punished for saying something. Kids are going to say some really concerning things to parents. It's really important to, not have that. I don't have kids myself, but I think it's really important to not have that knee-jerk reaction, like, oh, I got to get in protective mode, just like, doing all the things. Like you want to be able to allow divulge information to feel like they have a trusting relationship with you so they can tell you all these things, and then you can help them identify whether this is something concerning. It really starts with building and fostering that relationship can and will come to you because the more they feel that they can speak to you, they're going to divulge more. That's what I've seen with any youth that I've personally worked with in my victim advocacy role is that, just trying to relate with them, and then asking them once they do say something that's a little bit concerning, and they feel comfortable speaking with me, you know, asking open-ended questions like, do you
Right.
know information from them? And again, not making them feel like what they're saying is crazy or outlandish or like they're going to get punished for it, because ultimately that will just undermine that relationship and they'll withhold.
I love that. I think a key takeaway from what you said is creating a safe space that is void of fear and shame so that they're more open to talking to you about those topics. So thank you for saying that. Um, if we are going to like get real practical here, what are like three steps or tools that adults can use and take away to create a safer digital environment for our youth?
Um, Again, I have to default back to fostering that relationship where they can come to you, um, setting boundaries on their online presence, whether it be, and you want to be transparent about this. Like you don't want to make it feel like you're going behind their back, like
Right,
monitoring what you're doing, and they know that you're monitoring, but you're not being transparent about it. You want to lead with, I'm doing this for your safety, for X, Y.
right,
You want to be able to explain the reasons, because too often kids are told, well, just listen to what I'm saying. Like giving them an explanation makes them feel included in why this is happening. So helping with that. And also parents need to become familiar with the platforms. Like it is so important. Like a lot of platforms now have erasing messages, learning how to navigate the platforms. You can't look for something when it looks totally foreign to you. You have no idea how to use Instagram. I think Instagram is at this point universal, but if you don't know how to use Instagram or how to check for messages or like you need to be able to learn how to use this platform in order to even know what you're looking for. So I
right.
think three things are what I would consider are most important.
Oh, that's good. You kind of like answered my next question in that, so that's pretty good. Thank you for that. So if we shift the focus to empowerment, what language or tools can we give young people so they feel confident in setting boundaries online? Because we could say all the things like don't do and if this, but what can a young person walking away from this live say, oh, I could do that?
Practicing assertiveness is so important because as kids they're often made to feel like you are not allowed to voice your opinion or you are not allowed to assert how you feel. It's not about being aggressive, it's about giving them the space to be able to articulate how they feel. Again, going back to encouraging them if they don't feel comfortable with something, allowing them and encouraging them and practicing with them to say, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or this makes me feel like we shouldn't be doing, you know, uh, we really need to practice encouraging them how to articulate themselves. And I think that goes well beyond, well before they even get to this point where they're being groomed online. Like this is a lifelong thing that we need to start early on,
Right.
because is going to serve them, for their whole lifetime. So that would be, just giving them that space, practicing with them, and really encouraging them to voice their opinion, free of judgment.
That's great. Great tools to offer to youth. I know. I was gonna ask, like, if you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, like, how can they safely exit without feeling like they've done something wrong? And my first inclination is like, your no is your no. Like, you don't owe an explanation to your no. And so I am the queen of the block, like, end the conversation and block. From an advocate's point of view, how would you advise it, a young person?
Uh, you're absolutely right. Blocking is super important because if someone is making you feel uncomfortable, if someone is blowing up your phone, and it comes with any age group, if they are just nonstop messaging you, you have the ability to block them. You have the ability of silencing them. That's something that I sometimes encourage anyone that I'm working with to do in case that ever needs to be used for any kind of remedy later on, whether it be reporting to law enforcement or to a court, just silencing the message so it doesn't, you don't get those notifications nonstop. Because I can definitely understand that seeing those notifications from a person that is at that point harassing you is anxiety inducing. Like you don't want to see that. You don't want to receive all those messages. So
Right.
off the notifications, silencing them for that specific person or for that platform, if you're not ready to block them, because I, I do believe that sometimes there is going to be an emotional attachment and blocking may be difficult, but
Mhm.
letting them know sometimes the most apparent thing, the most apparent resolution is blocking, but they may not necessarily think of that at that time.
Right.
Really practicing that and encouraging them to set their boundaries and to protect access to themselves.
Absolutely. I think being an adult in a space where I've been cyber harassed, stalked, bullied, it's not always so easy, to bring that to a halt. If something does escalate, it is important for people to know what to do next, especially youth. Where should grooming behavior be reported, and what can someone expect after reporting?
So, super important to tell your parent. If this is something that you're experiencing that you're uncomfortable with, you've expressed being uncomfortable, the behavior is not abated, uh, telling your parent. And that's why it's really important to establish that really trusting relationship, that safe space with a parent or guardian is important.
Mhm.
Then they're going to come to you when a boundary has been crossed and something needs to be elevated, whether it be going to the police, making a report, whether it would be asking for a protection order if the right pieces of information can be ascertained.
Mhm.
Working collectively with the school or any other caregivers, coming up with a safety plan in order to protect the targeted youth. All of this is important, but especially if the behavior is just not abating, going to law enforcement is super important in making that report because it can open up a whole other um, avenues to correct or abate that person's behavior. Um, I have myself uh, need individuals that have made reports because it's scary going and elevating it to the point that you're going to a police station that you're
Right.
reporting. It's a scary thought. You know, a lot of people already have a fear of law enforcement, even if they haven't done anything wrong, or maybe they believe that they're not going to be taken seriously. So you can always reach out to a victim advocacy organization, and they can accompany you and be there with you, and maybe even explain what your options are prior to going to the police station. So it's really important to connect with the support that can help navigate and guide you through the rest of the journey may look like.
What are some if you don't know your local victim advocacy agencies, is there a way to navigate, or is that just Google and see what's available to you? Like if you don't know, you don't know. So what do you have for those individuals?
So, and I know this because I used to work for Crisis Support Services of Nevada. Dialing 988 is the easiest number to dial. It will connect you with the crisis center in your area immediately. And then they can always warm transfer you or give you the phone number to a more specialized agency if you need one. But 988 is they already have a plethora of information that can help an individual and navigate them on what they should do next, depending on what it is that they want to do. Because they're going to present the options. I think any good advocate is going to present the options and not necessarily peer pressure someone into doing something, unless, it does have to do with abuse of a minor. Obviously, that is very different. As
Oh,
many orders, a report has to be made. But 988 is a great tool because I could tell you, you should call the national hotline or the sexual assault hotline or RAIN or this or that. But those are all numbers that a person is not necessarily going to think of. And
right.
it can't get much easier than dialing 988. It's just a three phone number that you can dial. So that is the easiest way to connect with someone that can help.
I love that. Thank you for that resource. I want to open up the floor to questions to anybody that is watching right now. Do you have any questions for Brian that we could help you through as we continue the conversation? All right, just drop them in the comments and we will address them as we go. All right, so looking at the bigger picture, I know you touched on schools and how they can step in after. Um, Wait a minute, we do have a question. With platforms and apps evolving so quickly, where are young people most vulnerable right now? And how can families realistically keep up? Oh, that's a great question.
Question. And there are just so many platforms I can't even keep up with them myself. But I think it's just constantly keeping that relationship open. Asking them about, if they are chronically online. First of all, maybe setting up some limitations with that. But also feel free to ask them, oh, who are you speaking with? In the most neutral or non-judgmental way, so that way they can divulge more information, like being invested with them day to day is super important. Having conversations with them day to day. So then that way, when you do have a conversation, and maybe it's a little more probing type of conversation, it doesn't feel totally out of left field. And then they know that you're trying to pry something out of them. I've had situations where children, because the relationship was with their parent or guardian was not a safe space for them, when it did come to questioning, it was like a cloister. They would not open up whatsoever to law enforcement, to advocates, to anybody. And that's unfortunate because when they close up, like we're not going to learn anything whatsoever.
Right.
So doing that consistently so you do have that open communication when it's most needed is really important in my opinion.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I just want to confirm, I heard that 988 was nationwide. Confirming with you, is that just Nevada or is it nationwide?
It is nationwide, so you can be anywhere, and it'll connect you to the local crisis center in that area. So you
Perfect.
phone and let's say you're traveling out of state and want to talk to somebody, it'll connect you to a center over there. And again, all of them can reach out to other centers in your local area to help you find support geographically where you're going to be. But 988 is kind of my go-to.
Perfect. And I know we've spoken a lot about after grooming starts, but what can communities, parents, caregivers, school do to prevent the grooming before it starts?
Know what healthy relationships look like, um, letting them know what boundaries look like, helping them establish those boundaries, reestablishing them when they do get, because ultimately that's going to happen. So they feel comfortable to really reestablish that boundary. But it really starts with just knowing what a healthy relationship looks like early on. They're going to have relationships of all types throughout their entire life. So starting early on and letting them know what a healthy relationship looks like, during that is going to be important lifelong.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And then finally, for those who want to stay informed and proactive, what resources or training would you recommend to those people to as they explore what's next as far as protecting our youth online?
Yeah, so some of our great organizations down here, aside from the coalition, has so many different pamphlets. I bring those to my outreach events, and there's just for just about every topic. So I think coalitions are the best first place to get more information. They have the educational and technical expertise to begin with, and they share that with other local organizations that may not have that information available, may not have programs that are specifically geared towards youth. Safe House itself does have counseling for children, for youth. Signs of Hope does group sessions for individuals that have experienced abuse as teens. So there are some local resources, but I think starting with the coalition, only because I've relied on it so heavily with all the pamphlets that are bilingual. So they are easily accessible to, a wide array of people. I think that would be the first step that I would take. Just doing the trainings, the coalition itself actually offers a lot of different trainings as well on a lot of different topics. So that would be my go-to that I share within my own agency as well as other agencies.
Okay, perfect. Another thing, a lot of times when we speak about youth, it is um, sometimes I would like to consider youth with disabilities. Are we having the same exact conversation with those youth? Or are we taking extra steps to ensure their digital safety?
That is definitely, in my opinion, a different conversation where you want to bring in other partners. You do want a level of expertise when working with a youth that does have a disability of some sort, whether it be cognitive, physical. There needs to be an extra level of patience. I myself would love more experience in that space because
Mhm.
I really use more experience, but just connecting with the appropriate resources, like I think it's gone through a few name changes, but I think it's uh, APS, Adult Protective Services, but now um, deals with youth or any vulnerable person. Uh,
Okay.
Connecting maybe with your local CPS that has a lot of information as well. They also have resources, if not on the county level. Maybe they can connect you with other agencies like Olive Crest that can provide more information. So that is definitely a space where more can be done.
Right.
Myself.
Thank you for that. Before we head out, I do want to open up the floor to questions again from our viewers. And while we wait to see if those questions come in, I want to thank you, Brian, for your expertise, for the work that you do on a daily basis. Before we sign off, I do want to advise everyone that our Healthy Relationships campaign started last month in February and will continue throughout September 2026. This month, we are discussing boundaries and respect. We have a Did You Know YouTube video series that airs every Thursday, with every last Thursday of the month. So one is coming out tonight on digital grooming as well. I don't see any more questions. So with that, I want to give you an opportunity to provide some parting words, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anyone ever needs any information, any guidance, we may not necessarily have all the answers, but reaching out to an agency, they oftentimes have relationships with organizations that can provide information. So I myself work with Safe House. So you can give us a call at 702-451-4203 to be connected with an advocate. And again, if we don't have the answer, we definitely want to work on getting the answer for you. Also work really closely with Signs of Hope. I believe their phone number is 703-666-1640. So hopefully I got it right. But just local agencies so they can guide you in the right direction is super important.
Perfect. We do have a question. Are there partnerships with schools or other youth organizations to get this information out directly to youth? So I can start with that. We are Nevada based. So yes, we do partner with schools as the coalition. We have uh, member programs that we work with to help disseminate this information, tools and resources, so that our direct service providers have the information that they need to be the most effective. Brian, do you want to add to that?
I would love to, but I don't have, unfortunately, a lot of information to add because that's not my area of expertise. I do know that there is a huge desire to speak to students within CCSD down here in Clark County. I believe that there are some barriers to that. So I don't necessarily know how to overcome that, but there are some organizations that are trying to speak directly to the youth, but just um, I think governmentally, I think there are some barriers there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you once again, Brian. I so appreciate you supporting our Healthy Relationships campaign. And thank you. I see Amanda with some great resources here. If you check the comments, there are some resources available to you. And let me put on my glasses because I can't see. Uh, WLOSADA. Is that the Signs of Hope number
Yeah,
that you provided?
yeah, I think that's one of them.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, thank you all so much for attending. Please stay tuned. If you're not following us already, please follow, like, share, comment. There will be more throughout September. And once again, thanks and have a wonderful day. Thanks, Brian.
Sure.